What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Anthony and Mike, and we are discussing DragonCon 2024. Yay!
Yay!
DragonCon has come
So
and
much
gone,
fun.
and we had so much fun, and we were so busy, and we got to talk about a
Right.
whole bunch of nerdy things. And we want to talk about it a little bit. But before we get into our Dragon Con discussion, we wanted to just do a little bit of an aside because a few hours ago it was announced that James Earl Jones, at age 93, passed away. And this man has an extensive resume, but for those of us who are nerds, we know him mainly from three things, and that is Coming to America, The Lion King, and the Star Wars franchise as the voice of Darth Vader. So,
It's a voice that launched 1,000 fandoms.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you didn't mention
Yeah.
the Sandlot, which he's known for. It's like
I was gonna say that
Oh,
the Sandlot is amazing. That movie,
Mhm.
I mean,
his role in it
Fences
is
on
amazing.
Broadway, like his performance on Fences on Broadway was just like, I mean, Denzel was good in the movie, but him on Broadway was just even way more intense than that. I mean, he's had such a long and illustrious career that and a respected career. It's like he's one of the few actors that is respected across the board, across gender, across race, across political belief, across any belief. He was one of the most respected actors of all time. Like everybody. I mean, even nerds and non-nerds, like they like they knew him from something, whether it was Lion King, whether it was Star Wars, whether it was just being the voice of CNN. It's like they knew who he was,
Oh
and
God, I forgot about that.
This is
this
CNN.
CNN. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like he was so respected across the board that it's like he, I mean, he was the epitome of like transcendent. Like he literally was transcendent in show business. And it's a great loss, but I mean, 93 years is a hell of a run.
Right. And he was still working up until like recently.
Yeah.
So within last
Yeah,
couple of
he
years.
did. Yeah, he did some voice work for one of the Star Wars shows.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember which one off the top of my head, but yeah, he outside of Darth Vader, like he's just amazing. One of the things that when I learned how he used to stutter and how he overcame that was really it really touched me somewhere because growing I have a lisp, and growing up for me it wasn't difficult to speak, but I didn't like talking. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like talking because people would make fun of my lisp. And so, and then having a deep voice as well, even,
Mm-hmm.
in middle school was something I always had to contend with. And he sort of, I think I read an interview that him talking about that just made me, really want to try to overcome that.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he'll always have uh, a special place for me.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to be special. Like he made a pretty when you look at him a pretty despicable character, one of the most liked characters in fandoms.
Yeah.
Like one of the most copied, like one of the most. I mean, we're here to talk about Dragon Con during the parade. How many Darth Vaders do you see wanting to be
Mm-hmm.
like and he wasn't even the actor; he was just the voice,
The
and his
voice.
voice inspired people to love that character.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many people go around calling themselves Sith because of him?
Yeah. So going back to what Anthony was saying, he did do recent Star Wars stuff. The most recent was in 2022. He voiced Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Yeah,
He
and Kenobi. Yep.
also Yep.
Yeah.
He also did Episode 9. He did Rogue One. He did Star Wars Rebels. And those are just all within the last couple of years. Of course, he did Coming to America too. You know, he's known for The Lion King, Return of the Lion, Return of the Roar, The Lion Guard. I mean, he did The Big Bang Theory. Like, there's so much on here. Jack and the Beanstalk. He did House. He did 2.5 Men. Welcome Home. Roscoe Jenkins. Scary Movie for like his filmography goes all the way back to what is this 1962 is what I see. Maybe a little bit.
The
No,
Great White Hope.
actually, excuse me. No,
Oh man,
Well,
I'm wrong.
Blaxploitation.
1952. He was on Guiding Light. I did remember that. I do know that. So he did soap operas. 1952, Guiding Light. He did As the World Turns. So yeah, so much stuff. Such a long career, such a long life. Like you said, Mike, transcended all types of genres, all types of like just entertainment in a nutshell. So, you know, life well lived, job well done. Rest in peace, good sir, James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That was a hard one though. Like, even though 93 is good, but we have lost some really good legendary actors, especially like recently, because we also lost Donald Sutherland not too long ago, who also had a huge long career. But okay, let's move along. Let's talk about Dragon Con. Yay! So for those of you who listen to us and who follow us, you know that Dragon Con is like the big con for us, not just as a podcast, but just as nerds in general. Anthony, you've been going, this was your 24th year at Dragon Con?
24th year at Dragon Con.
24.
Yep.
I'm gonna be like you when I grow up, me and my measly little 17 years.
It's me and my measly
24.
5, 6.
Ah, but that's okay. It's okay. Better
It's
late
okay.
than
You'll
never.
catch up.
Because I know some people who are still like,
Right.
I still haven't been to Dragon Con. And I have people who come up to me, I'm going to go this year. I'm like, yeah, right. I ain't going to see you.
Yeah. So on one panel, someone was like, man, if you had known this would be your 24th year, would you have bought the Eternal membership?
Hell yes. Because
Right.
I think when I started coming in 2007, I think the Eternal membership at that time was like maybe $750. Maybe a
It may
little
have
bit more.
been, I think it was a little more than that, but yeah.
It might have been, but either way it goes, yes, if I'd have known, I'd have taken some of that tax money and bought me an Eternal.
And bought an Eternal membership. Yeah.
Because now it's like what, $4,000, $4,500?
Yeah. I've met a couple people with Eternal membership. They get some pretty interesting perks. So
yeah, but it
I would hope so.
really,
But yeah.
Well, for $4,500, you better. I better be the Grand Marshal of the parade. Hell, you talking?
they need to throw in a hotel room with
I
me.
remember,
I love Dragon Con, but I don't love Dragon.
I remember years ago, I was trying to talk to Rachel Luttrell from Stargate, and like there was that was when you could literally walk up to people, walk up to celebrities and whatnot, and they literally brought this guy over and kind of moved me out the way to talk to her, and it was the Eternal member. I was like, really?
Okay.
Really? And she's like, okay, I'm sorry about that.
Oh,
they did their thing, chatted him up, and then he went off, and she was like, wow, that was really rude. I said, yeah, but that was an Eternal member.
I mean,
I don't think they do that for them anymore, but hey, you pay for it, you pay for it.
Yeah, that's true, but it's like now with it being like $4,000, like if you buy your membership immediately after Dragon Con or while Dragon Con is still going for the following year, right now it's $100. That means in order for me to get my money's worth, like I could, that's
You gotta
40,
go for the
45
45
years. I don't know if I can
I
do
mean,
Dragon Con at 100. I
I mean,
struggled doing it at 49. I felt every one of my 49 years this year. I don't know what it was.
man,
Those hills were a little bit harder. The sun was a little bit hotter. And it was so many bodies. The Walk of Fame on, I want to say it was either Friday night or Saturday. It was so ridiculous trying to get in there because the line literally it curved around the waiting area and then it curved past the charity booth. It literally curved all over. Like they had to tell people who was going to, like, our panels. We do a lot of panels on the American Sci-Fi Fantasy Media Track, which is up under like the main level of the Marriott. So you go under the escalators, and the line for the Walk of Fame was there, and people had to tell them to move. They were like, no, we need this space to line up our people for our panels. And I was like,
yeah.
I've never ever seen it like that. It was
Was that the one where
I don't know
it
any.
was
I don't know any. No, I was just gonna say I don't know anything about that because all my panels were in the Marriott. So
you know what? Whatever.
what?
I
I didn't
mean,
That
walk
is
up
the
in the
that's what it
hills.
was. That
It was
whole
the Marriott.
No, but I didn't have to walk up in the hills. I didn't have to go back and forth between hotels.
whatever.
I
We
was
don't
just
care that
right
you didn't need to get your steps. You didn't need to get your
I'm saying
steps. That's
I got
okay.
mine. Man, was that the one with you, me, Michelle, and Burma?
I don't know. No, it was one of the other panels
Did we
because I
go?
don't
Did we
think
go
that
Saturday? No, I'm saying we were in line for the Walk of Fame.
trying maybe. Yeah.
I didn't even get to go to the Walk of Fame this time. Like I did not step foot inside of there. And
I
I really
stepped foot
wanted
in
to
there
get Michelle Hurd's autograph.
Yeah, I went in there twice.
Yeah, I
I went
wanted to get
once,
Michelle Hurd's autograph, but
and I saw Nathan Fillion, but I also saw Nathan Fillion's line, and I was like, oh,
he was part of the reason for that long ass line.
yeah.
I think Mike and I went at the same time. We went on Friday, like Friday afternoon, because we just wanted to walk through and kind of get an idea of where everybody was, if we were going to do like autographs or selfies. And I walked through and there were some lines where there was nothing. Like I think the two of the kids from the Avatar Netflix series, at the point that I walked past them, they didn't have anybody in their line. But then you walk around the corner, it's like, oh my God. I think Nathan Fillion had a huge line. Ross Marquand had a huge line. Manny Jacinto had a huge line. Like, yeah,
Ming
I
Na
just
didn't
looked.
even have that long a line. I was shocked at that. It was kind of
The
long,
couple
but
of
it
times
was.
I've seen Mignon, I've walked up to her because there was no one there. Like, yeah,
But
I'm
this is
like,
also
that's
not her
heresy.
first
which
time
is
here at
odd.
Dragon Con. So it could be this a lot of, because I'm one of those people. I know there are some people who will go and meet the same celebrities over and over and over again. I'm not one of those people. I can't afford that. But so I don't know. Maybe it's because Ming Na has been here before. A lot of people who were
Yeah.
here probably have already seen her. But like Nathan Fillion, I think he's had to cancel the last couple of times he was supposed to come to Dragon Con for filming.
Yep.
So this was the first time he was like actually there. Alan Tudyk was there. It was a whole bunch of other people, but yeah, we walked through that Friday and I was like, okay, I may try to come later. And then I tried on Saturday and Saturday was not hitting it. And then I think I walked through on Monday before our panels just to see who was left. And it was a ghost town. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
We
get a
all
chance
catch those Monday flights to get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple of people who were still around, but yeah, it wasn't any of the, because I think most of the quote unquote big people were still doing panels. So they were on panels that afternoon, because I think the last big panel was like 2:30. So yeah. So I think this was my first year that I didn't do anything in the Walk of Fame. So I didn't get an autograph. I didn't
Yeah, I
get
know this was my first year. I didn't even walk through there at all.
Yeah.
First time ever.
So cool.
I've not gone to Walk of Fame.
Because I walked past a couple of people and saw them like in the hall, like Brett Dalton from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Grant Ward walked past me, and I was like, I know I've met this dude before. I did not realize he was this tall. So he walked past me. I think Bonnie Wright walked past me once. That's Jenny Weasley from the Harry Potter series. And somebody else walked past me, and I was just kind of did a double take, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, I was in panels all weekend, which was great because
yes, I saw Rikishi in
and
the
you know what?
bathroom.
It wasn't Rikishi.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And then but hold on. But we also saw when we came out of our panel, we saw hold on, his name is Tanoi Reed, the Rock stuntman. Like it was me, Hanako, and
our friends Adam and Dina, and I think Calvin was there. There's like a whole group that I hang around with off and on during Dragon Con. So we were all sitting there.
We're just standing there taking pictures of cosplays, and I look and I'm like, wow, that is a really good Black Adam cosplay. I'm gonna take his picture. So I go over there, look, and it's him, and I'm like, and whoever was with him was like, "You want a picture?" I was like, "Do you mind?" He's like, "Yeah, I guess." Like, 'cause I guess he had been taking pictures. Like everybody been coming up to him, he been taking pictures. I'm like, "Thank you." So I take 2 pictures with him. I'm like, "Dude, I follow you on Instagram. You're great." He's like, "Oh, cool, thanks, dude." I'm like, "Yeah." Then I go back. I'm like, "Dude, that's Rock stunt double. That's him. That's actually him. Like in the actual costume." And they're like, everybody's like, "What?" I'm like, "It's him."
Yeah, a couple of our friends took off.
Yeah, it's like Arelis was like, "Oh hell!" Like she literally went like Speedy Gonzalez. I was like, "Yo!" Like I think she almost knocked me over.
And see, I had seen him upstairs because I think Mike realized who it was because I showed him a picture. I was like, "Yo, there's a guy who's dressed as Black Adam, and he looks really, really like similar. He looks almost like The Rock." And I showed it to Mike, and he was like, "I think I follow him on Instagram." I was like, "What?"
I was like, yo, that's right. I saw him. I was like, "Oh shit, that's him." Like, oh fuck, that's why I went over there.
Yeah, I went over there to get a better picture because my picture was blurry, and he was the one who was like, "You want to get in the picture with me?" Yes, absolutely, yes.
He was really cool about it. Like he was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
He had a relish throwing her hair. Like
that's just just my girl.
That was awesome. But I mean, he was really cool about it. And that's one of the things you like about Dragon Con is like the stars that know that you're gonna come up and get pictures with them in the wild. And as long as you're respectful, they're like, cool, come on.
Yeah. And the cost, okay, so I had to have taken about 400 pictures, maybe. I usually take anywhere between 300 and 700 pictures of cosplay at Dragon Con every single year. How is it that there were still people I did not come across? Like the cosplay.
Because it's 80,000 people. That's why.
I know.
It's a lot of people.
But
and you know what? I stopped.
The funny thing is, I was listening to our episode of X-Men 97 earlier today, and we were talking about the Magneto up on the thing with the underwear, and I was like, we're gonna see a million of them at Dragon Con. I did not see one single Magneto strapped up to the thing. I'm upset.
But I did see a couple of worms from Dune. I did see those.
Did you see the popcorn bucket? Someone came dressed as the Dune popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I just
on the picture thing. So having gone 24 years, those first 10 or 11 years, I took a lot of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I took well over 3,000 or 4,000 pictures. I can't do it no more. I can't. I took one picture this time because this guy had a really cool looking War Machine costume that was functional. Like the helmet would go up and down.
I
So I
did
took a
not see
picture
a
of him because
single
he
War
kind of looked
Machine
like
this
Don
year.
Cheadle.
I did not
Yeah,
see a
yeah.
single War Machine.
The guy looked just like Don Cheadle, and I
Really?
Was it
took a
stunt
picture
double?
of him. Yeah,
Mike's
but
gonna say everything.
he was that was the only picture I took of, well, besides Bailey,
Really?
of cosplay.
Really?
Yeah,
Damn.
but I don't take any. It has to be something that I've never seen before, or it's just so rare to see. I will take a picture of it, but it is few and far between for me.
Wow.
Because that's all I used to do. Sit in the Hyatt or the Marriott and just take pictures of cosplay.
And so you can't really do that
Thousands
anymore
of
because it's so
pictures.
crowded.
Right.
It was so crowded, yeah.
Yeah, you have to follow them around. I
Yeah.
think when Arelis and I first started going in 2007, I think the first few years, this was before I started doing panels. So literally I'm on the con floor all day when I'm not going to panels. And there would be a cosplay that we would see like across the building, and we would literally sprint to go get that picture. And she started calling her and my other friend Shanties, they used to start calling me the Conarazzi because they were like, oh, Hanako's gonna get that. You can't do it now. Like I'll go a short distance, but it's so many people and it's so hard to get through that I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll see them
Nowadays,
at
yeah.
some point. I'll see them at some point. But there were some really good costumes this year, and I was like, I wish I could get more. But unfortunately, my phone couldn't hold all of that. I had to come home and clear out my phone because between taking pictures, trying to record panels, my phone was like, bruh, we limited on space. I didn't get a chance to I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to take a lot, but I mean, I didn't even set foot in the Hilton at all this year. And I know there was some other I know there are people who like hang out in the Hilton for the most part. You will
Mm-hmm.
find your usual cosplayers that hang out in the Marriott, like especially
Mm-hmm.
certain cosplayers who do the same elaborate costumes every year. They pretty much know where their spot is. They know where people are gonna come find them and kind of stick there.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have time to go
Yeah.
to the Hilton this year. I did
Yeah.
14 panels.
But back in the day, like the Marriott level was where all
Mm-hmm.
the really good cosplayers
Yeah.
were.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was on the atrium level, and then like they got crowded. And so the last time I took pictures, I did in the Hyatt, no, in the Hilton,
Okay.
because people were going to the Hilton lobby, and they were just standing there. You could take pictures, and it never got crowded
Yeah.
like the Marriott on the atrium and the Marriott and the marquee
Well, that's
level.
because everybody's on the back steps at the Hilton doing the photo shoots. That's probably why it never.
Right.
And I hate that I didn't get to go to any photo shoots. I didn't get to take any pictures of the photo shoots this year, but luckily.
Yeah, Bailey missed the Sailor Moon photo shoot. She wanted to do that,
Oh,
but
Oh. Yeah, I
she
went
had
to
Sailor Moon
The
costume.
Deadpool one was so good. Like, holy shit.
and I
Yeah.
didn't see as many Deadpool as I thought I
I didn't
would
see
this
as many
year.
as I thought I would. Yeah, as I thought
Yeah.
I would. I didn't see
And I couldn't even get
half
a
as many.
good picture
No.
of a Deadpool and a Wolverine because every time I saw like, especially like the really good ones, there was one guy who looked like eerily like Hugh Jackman, but they're way over there and I'm way over here, and I was just like, okay, maybe tomorrow. Not one. I didn't get one. I don't think I got one pair of Deadpool and Wolverine. I got a few Deadpools. I got a few Deadpool variants. I got a nice pool, but yeah, I didn't get the two of them together, and I was so sad.
Yeah. It's like we remember when Loki came out. We thought we would see a lot of Loki variants. We didn't see
Right.
that many Loki variants. Yeah,
Well,
not
yeah, true, because
I thought I would
everybody
see a
was
lot of
doing. Yeah, people were doing the same Loki variants. We kept seeing the same ones. Like you
right
see a
the
whole bunch of
same
President
ones. Loki,
Lokis, or you see
President Loki, right?
the
Basically,
alligator
yeah.
Loki, or yeah. So, but But yeah, I expected to see more, especially because we usually see Deadpools all over the Dragon Con anyway. So
there was a Deadpool stormtrooper. There was a Deadpool stormtrooper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
That I didn't have my phone out, so I missed that. Missed the picture for
I
that one.
may have
That was
gotten
kind
that
of
one. I may have gotten that one. I don't remember. I do know that there was a I think I saw a pink one. I'm not
yeah.
There are a
sure.
There was
couple
a
pink
pink
ones.
stormtrooper.
Yo, the pink
Yeah,
one
there
in
was a
in
pink.
the dress.
In the ballerina skirt.
That's,
That was
In
I
the
didn't
ball
see
dress. It
one
was
in the
like a
balance.
ball gown.
Maybe I didn't see the skirt, but I saw a pink stormtrooper.
okay. Yeah.
There's like an
Yeah.
inflatable Pikachu Deadpool that I saw.
I did see that one.
Yep.
Yes, I
Saw
did
that
see
one.
that one.
Yeah. Saw that
I
one.
did get, because I did get a chance. I happened to be sitting on the floor charging my phone when the dinosaur parade came by me. And I was like, oh, I actually get to see it from the start. So that was great. That was the inflatable dinosaurs. And then the following night, I got to watch the Mando March. And I think we literally
Oh my God, that was
stopped
crazy.
and recorded. It was like a 4.5-minute march with Mandalorians of all shapes, sizes, colors, variations. It was
And it just did not
great.
end. It
It did
just
not.
kept going.
I was just like, this is why I love Dragon Con, because we get to see stuff like this. It's amazing.
Oh,
But
like the March of the Elves.
I
The elves are
missed the
leaving Middle
Elven.
Earth.
I missed it this year. I
Bailey and
missed
I
it.
catch it every year. For some reason, we're always catching it. Always
I
catching
missed
it.
it. I missed it. I
Yeah.
think what happened though, I think I was on a panel at the time. So that's
Yeah.
probably why. But
This was Bailey's third year.
okay.
Bailey's my 16-year-old daughter.
Nice.
This was her third year. This was her first 5-day. So she came with
Oh,
us.
okay.
Nice.
Did she come with us Friday? So she came with us Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
But she cosplayed both days,
Okay.
Nice.
which she's up on me on cosplay because she's cosplayed every year. But that's neither here nor there. Um, so yeah, I was in the Marriott all day doing panels most of the time. But the cool thing was being able to hang with her. Having gone 24 years now, I've been to a lot of things. So it
Baggard.
was kind of cool to watch, to be around people like Mike who haven't gone a lot, because you get to see and experience it with them
Right.
all over again. And so experiencing with Bailey and going to her track, she likes the Silk Road,
Okay.
which is a track that has a lot of the Asian
Anime.
influence stuff, anime, all that stuff. And I will tell you this: if there's any track that needs a larger room, it is them, because every panel has a line. Every panel fills up. I
Which
swear. We
hotel is
spent
that one
most of
in?
Sunday in there. It is in it's in the Hilton.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. It's in the Hilton
Oh yeah,
on
because
the
those rooms are
third
kind
floor.
of small.
Well, they're long, they're not wide.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But for the number of people that are interested, it's really not enough. But I don't think there are any other large rooms that they could go in.
Mm.
Um, but I've gone to panels on a lot of tracks where they'll have a packed panel and then there'll be a panel with like 3 people in it. The
Yeah.
Silk Road, always a full house.
Okay.
Always. But that's where she spent most of her time, and it was kind of fun. I was with her. Michelle was with her a lot on Saturday. Or we would walk her to the room and then drop her off, in line, and then go do our thing. But I
Okay.
went to like maybe 3 or 4 panels with her on Saturday. But it was fun. It's always fun to see, someone new experience Dragon Con.
Right. Especially a younger person.
I just wanted to
Especially
say that,
younger.
especially young person. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So
That's
let's
cool.
talk about these panels a little bit. What was your favorite panel that you attended? Not one that you were on, but one that you attended.
Hmm.
Oh, y'all
I
got
gotta
to
be
You
honest.
should have gave us
I
these
think
questions before
Okay,
before we
well,
got on.
y'all think about it because
I don't think I had time to attend. I don't think I attended any other than mine. 'Cause I had 11
How many
panels. Like you had
panels?
14, I had 11,
Oh,
and it's like they were all over and like, I know Saturday I was walking all over the place because
bruh.
I started into Cortland, then I walked over to the Marriott, then I walked up to the Westin, then I walked back to the Marriott. So
Let me tell you, the Uber Bird scooters were my best friend DragonCon weekend because when I had to get from one end of the earth to the other, that's what I did because there were so many people walking and it was so crowded. I was like, I can't be late. I was almost late for my Outlander panel on Sunday. I had to come from the West End and I caught myself going through the Marriott because the streets were so crowded. I was like, okay, let me do that. I ended up seeing a friend of mine that I had not seen the entire con. So I stopped, said hey to her, and then I literally got, like I told Michelle earlier, I got discombobulated. I was like, do I not have anywhere to be until 4? And I was like, no. And I start walking, and then I get a message from Anthony, and he was like, we're waiting for you at the court. And I'm like, oh, wait, I have to go all the way down there. I'm thinking I'm supposed to be in the Marriott. I was like, wait a minute, let me get on this scooter and come on down the street. But those
yeah.
Uber
Michelle was
Birds,
texting me, and she was like, "Hanako's not here yet," and they're waiting to let anyone in until
she
Hanako gets
told
there.
me. I was like, I was trying to get there, but it was so many people. And again, this was also the same day that the downstairs was so packed. And I was like, I don't know why I thought going this way would be better because I was going away from the Walk of Fame. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It was crowded. I was like, okay, so let's just do this. Let me hurry up and get downstairs. Let me get one of these scooters. Let me go down the street. I was like, okay, I'm good. But so
I
Okay,
did like your
okay.
Deadpool trilogy panel though.
you mean the Deadpool trilogy that turned into a basic MCU panel?
It really did.
It
So
did.
what?
That panel got co-opted, but it was a lot of fun to be on that panel and talk about Deadpool and talk about the
Yeah.
MCU. Talk about MCU panels are always fun. Like we
Mm-hmm.
always have so much fun, and I know that we have to keep the panels an hour. I don't know the logistics that goes into planning Dragon Con track panels. I don't even want to know because that's a lot of work. Just from the little bit that I talk to the track directors when they're trying to figure out where to place people, I'm like, no, I couldn't be this stressed. It's
Mm-mm.
a lot. But a lot of those panels, especially the MC, anything having to deal with any Marvel topic whatsoever, I really feel like those could be hour and a half long panels, maybe even 2 hour long panels, because like for the Deadpool trilogy, when we started talking about Deadpool, but of course with Deadpool and Wolverine, we go into the whole sacred timeline, the TVA, the multiverse. And so it just kind of went from there and we got off track. And then we tried to pull it back in and then it went off track again. So
We're not back out.
at some point we're just like, okay, we're just talking. I mean, that I think those are the best panels anyway, especially when you have a lot of crowd participation, because this was a Monday 2:30 panel. This is one of the last panels of the entire Dragon Con. We had a full room on a Monday at 2:30. And we had a lot of audience participation. It was so much fun. And I was like, do we really have to get up now? That
It
was
was fun.
so much fun. I think for me, I only got to attend, I think I attended 3 panels total. And for me, the fun one was Mike's panel on, I think it was Sunday night. They did a
The
late
face
night
off though.
panel and it was face off. So basically, we were doing bracket style tournament for the movies of John Travolta versus the movies of Nicolas Cage.
It's so
And
much fun.
I think that's the first panel I've ever attended on the Sci-Fi Classics channel,
Sci-Fi
Sci-Fi
Classics track, yeah.
Classics track, because I'm always
Shame on you.
Well, I'm always on panels during times when there's stuff that I want to go to. So
I'm just messing with you.
That particular one, I stayed late because the last few years I've left kind of early on Sunday night, but this year I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go stick my head into the Yule Ball, and then Mike has a panel at 10 o'clock. You know what? I'm feeling pretty okay. I wasn't zonked like I thought I would be. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this panel. When I tell you, that is the most fun I think I've had at a panel, aside from the panel we did on Saturday night, which was the worst person in Westeros, which was also kind of bracket style. That panel, first of all, some of the movies people threw out for Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. Now, I'm not familiar with all of the filmography for both of those. There are certain movies of theirs I like, and certain movies I'm like, eh. But people were pulling out movies, and I was like, I haven't heard of that movie in like 30 years. Why was that the first one that came to your mind? And then we have to go
Broken
through.
Arrow. Broken Arrow had to be on the list.
I think Broken Arrow was on the list.
That movie is amazing.
It is.
The thing about it is, though, for all the movies mentioned for both actors, for the panel to be called The Face Off, nobody mentioned their characters from The Face Off, and I was like, I'm so disappointed in all of them.
I think that would have been kind of obvious.
They should have been on. I mean, I think they probably should have been like, number one C's if we're going to name. They should have just been number one C's, but
nah,
I mean, at least C.
They
should have been on the list. Let's just put it that way. I think they should have been on the list because that's some of their best.
But I like the fact that people kind of thought outside the box and brought in even some of the more obscure of their films. I kind of like that because, okay, yes, the title of the panel was Face Off. Bringing in those two characters, that would have been too obvious. Let's use our brains a little bit. And I love the fact that people were doing that, because somebody said Bolt, and I was like, we're really going to bring the dog movie in? And that was like such a big thing.
That did kind of come out of left field.
Because Nick was like, if y'all eliminate the dog, y'all are horrible people.
And the dog lasted 2 rounds.
But the dog got eliminated. But I was sitting here listening to some of the other movies that they were bringing in, and like you said, Anthony, you were like, okay, Broken Arrow had to be one. I'm really disappointed that nobody said Hairspray for John Travolta. I'm so disappointed because that definitely should have been one. But that, when I say,
I wanted them to do Superman from The Flash. I just wanted someone just to say Superman from The Flash.
I thought about that too, but the fact that it was like a cameo and not like, we didn't really get to see him do anything. So that
it's still Nicolas Cage's Superman, though. It's still Nicolas Cage's Superman.
But when I say that panel was loud and full of chaos, and the Sci-Fi Classics track, they have on the back table, they basically had like a trading like a grab and go type thing where you can bring in stuff and you can take stuff. So they had like movies. I got a Spider-Gwen Funko Pop. They had something else.
What?
So yes, I did. Yeah. I did.
Shout out to Gary. Shout out to Gary and
shout out to Joe. Those guys are awesome.
And Gary's podcast of Amontillado. Yep. He's had me on that show a couple of times. He's good.
Yeah.
Oh, and Nick, because Nick has been adopted. Nick has been adopted by the track.
Good. He should be.
That's his jam.
That is his jam.
But they had back there on the table, somebody donated a whole bag of plastic kazoos, and nobody was taking the kazoos. So what they did was, before the panel started, they went by and they started passing out the kazoos. And there was a couple of people sitting behind us, and they're making all of these comments about how to use the kazoos and how to make them how to make the sound come out of them. And some of the comments were not appropriate, and we were just in there dying laughing. And then as the panel goes on and we're starting to do like the voting and everybody's talking to, pros and cons for each movie, people start using the kazoos. So it gets to a point where when everybody's voting, they start blowing the kazoos. And it was, like I said, it was the most purest fun chaos I have been in a panel.
It's like some of them didn't. It's like, bless their hearts, they had no idea what they were doing. It's like, they were like, ooh. It was like, no.
It was fun.
Bunch of children. Everyone devolved into a bunch of kids.
Yes, we did.
They did.
It was 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Yes, we were. It was
awesome.
Yeah.
It was really
There's nothing wrong with that. It's Dragon Con.
It's Dragon Con. Right.
At all. It's Dragon Con.
Right. I loved it.
I don't feel like I got to go to a lot of panels, but the two that I really liked were Smallville top 5 episodes, because there was a lot of nostalgia in that. I forgot about some episodes that were like really, really good.
Okay.
So that was the classics track. That was fun. And the other one was your panel. I think you did the Rogue Prince.
Yes.
Damon Targaryen. That was a great panel. That was a great panel. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Because we're debating, we're talking about Damon Targaryen, the Rogue Prince, the one who is like in the show, such a complex character. But in the book, what was it Tara kept saying? She kept saying he was so evil in the book. And she just kept reiterating, oh no, she was doing that more so for the worst person in Westeros, House of the Dragon edition panel.
Oh, she did it more. Oh, well, in this panel, she was like, she's like, I'm just amazed at all of you people like him, because in the book, he's terrible. In the text, he is awful.
It was even worse for the worst person, because basically what the High Fantasy track did was they put a poll out on their Facebook page like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks before Dragon Con, and they wanted people to vote for who the worst person in Westeros was for House of the Dragon. And then what they did was they took the top 8 and they made brackets. So it was basically whoever got the votes, they put them in brackets, and then we had to debate them on why. And the funny thing is, at the end of that panel, the popular vote was that Larry Strong was the worst person in Westeros.
Yeah.
And Tara kept saying, over David. Like, it was such a fun. Those House of the Dragon.
Shout out Tara.
Hey, Tara.
Shout out Tara.
We shouting out everybody.
She was, speaking of Tara, she was like, you were surprised when you saw her in your Walking Dead panel.
I was, because I only ever I've done panels with
only
her
ever see her in High Fantasy.
And it's always on High Fantasy. So when she was on Walking Dead, I was like, hey. And then when we got to the Rogue panel, she said, I was just on the panel with one of your co-hosts. I said, Anthony? She said, yes. She said, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together until he said Fandom Hybrid Podcast. And I was like, oh, so yeah. Yeah. I was surprised, but let me tell you, that Walking Dead panel was so much fun. It was so much fun. And that is another panel and another topic, especially because we were talking about the expanded universe. That's another one that could have been an hour and a half, 2 hours, because people had a lot to say.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to throw in Michelle's Dark Matter. We went to a panel on Dark Matter, and because we debated about the show, we argued about the show when the show was on. The argument kind of spilled over into the panel, and people were like, "Are y'all going to be okay?" Because when we were at Conjuration, and I was on the panel, the house for like classifying characters into a house. We're doing Strange New Worlds. She was in the audience, and we were going back and forth about one of the characters. So, but there, people like, oh, isn't that cute? Blah, blah, blah. But no, here, people like, are y'all going to be okay? Because we were sitting next to each other and we were going back and forth. We might as well have been on the panel, to be honest with you. But it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of
So
fun.
y'all basically do what y'all do
people
on the podcast when y'all are on here together.
Yeah. I told someone you should watch the podcast. You should come to the YouTube and watch the podcast, and you will see. Look up the House of Dragon podcast, and you'll see.
Right. Like you will see this is that we're good. We're good. This is a regular thing for
we're good. This is normal for us. Because I was sitting next to her and I was like, okay, so I always have this argument with someone and I'm pointing to her behind her head. And then some of the panels, like, I'm assuming that the person you're talking about is sitting there, because actually before that, Michelle raised her hand, she's like, no. And she went automatically into the argument. I was like, see?
Oh, I wish I could have been there for that.
So yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh, I wish I could have been there for that. Okay, so I have a question since you're talking about that show, because there was another show called Dark Matter that came out like years ago. That's not the same show. Is it the same show?
No, it's two different.
Two totally different
Two
shows.
completely different things,
yeah. Okay.
It was on Sci-Fi, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So because I keep hearing people talk about Dark Matter, but I haven't done a lot of sci-fi lately. Mostly everything that I've been watching is like either superhero or fantasy stuff. So I kind of need to get back into my sci-fi groove, especially if we're going to Stellar Fest next year, which is the new science fiction convention that the founders of Conjuration are doing in April. So I guess I need to get on my my sci-fi kick. But
and Dark Matter is moving into that. There's a comeback of hard science fiction shows. Hard sci-fi shows are real, like Three Body Problem. What's another one that's out? That's hard sci-fi. So Body. A show we didn't do. Beacon 23 is another one.
Okay.
So yeah, those hard sci-fi is making a comeback. And Constellation. Yeah, those
Silo.
Shows, even
I
though
keep hearing people talk about that one.
Well, yeah, I guess Silo would be. Yeah, and Silo and Beacon 23 are written by the same author, so
okay.
That should tell you if you watch Silo,
right?
that tells you a lot about Beacon 23. Yeah.
Okay. Which is hello.
Dark Matter is on Apple too. Y'all are missing Foundation, which is another hard sci-fi show. Y'all are missing all the good stuff.
I look.
Enough streaming platforms. Like,
look, we got the free trial. We watched all of Ted Lasso. I'm good. I ain't gonna do all that. Good.
Okay.
All the good hard sci-fi is on Apple. Except Beacon 23 is on MGM Plus. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah,
MGM had a. Okay, you know what? There's too much. There's too many streaming.
From is on MGM Plus too, and From is on MGM Plus too. And people should watch From.
I don't think I could do From. It looks good, but I'm just like, no. This is like I watch part of the premiere. Everything. Like, I'm not gonna get stuck in no town that I can't leave, and no. After dark, I'm still reasonably scared of the dark at 53. I'm not trying to get somewhere where I can't go outside and leave and walk out. Like, no, I'm not doing no. I'm not going to have my light bill go sky high because I gotta leave lights on because I watch a damn TV show. It's like, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Michelle loves the show. She loved it so much she had to track down what track it's supposed to be on. And it's horror track. But she she had to, because she's trying to find it. There's no panels on it. It's no horror track just sitting there with no panels. But There a lot of people. It came up on 2 panels I was on. It came up on Beacon 23, and it came up on one other panel I was on where they talked about From. So there's definitely interest in the show. People watch the show. It's just that, you know, and it's kind of hard because like even for the Beacon 23 panel I was on, it was only 2 audience members. And that's the hard thing about doing panels on the American Sci-Fi track is just people just aren't really watching a lot of those shows. Like Constellation, we were going to do a Constellation panel, but they had to cancel it because there weren't enough panelists for it.
Okay.
Yeah. And the 3-body problem was packed. So it's all over the place. People are all over places. If you wouldn't think anyone watched the 3-body problem.
But I think
that was
you
that
guys
panel.
Were saying, you guys were saying there were a lot of book readers for that particular panel, right?
Yeah. Okay. There were a lot of people who read the book.
Okay.
And then there were a lot of people who watched the was it Chinese show? Yeah. The show is that show is 30 episodes. But there are a lot of people who, because that's on Prime as well. But there are people that watched that version came to the panel. So the people watched that version, people read the book, and people watched the show. So it was a packed house for that panel.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the other.
So what were your favorites?
Oh,
well, did Mike do your favorites? Did you do your favorites, Mike?
Yeah, he said.
Yeah, I mean, I only went to like I said, I went to Hanako's panel, and I went to another one in the American Sci-Fi track, which is slowly becoming my favorite track because there's like almost no rules. It's like it's total anarchy, and it's fucking awesome. But I mean, I didn't have time. I just there was so much stuff I had to do, and it's like because I wanted to go to your diversity panel that you did on your Star Wars diversity panel, but I didn't have time. I heard it was really good. I wanted to go because Nick said he went. It was really good.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I do try to at least record some of the panels, like the ones that I do, because I know that there are panels that you guys are interested in that you may not be able to get to because you're either on panels at the same time or going to panels. I think usually we get a chance to go to each other's panels, at least 2 or 3 of them. And I think this year we were all like on panels at the same time. So I did, I was able to get a recording of one of Anthony's panels. They did over on the High Fantasy track. They did a panel about the people of the Aiel from the Wheel of Time series. So that was a very interesting panel because even though we have not yet, and I'm stressing yet, discussed Wheel of Time season 2, we have been introduced to the Aiel in that season, and they're very interesting people, but of course, not being a book reader, I don't know much about them. So listening to you guys talk about them, I was like, I feel like I need to be taking notes and doing research because you guys were talking about like the different groups within the Aiel, and I was like, oh, I feel like
I spoiled you.
No, it's fine.
Spoiled.
Yeah, but I knew I would be when I went to that panel. So, but I was like, I got to get to, my whole thing was, so Mike did 11 panels. I think you were on what, 8 or 5?
8. Yeah.
You were on 8.
8.
I did, I think 14. And over the course of a weekend, that's a lot of panels, but we aren't able to get to each other's panels because a lot of our panels were at the same time. So my thing was I was trying to at least get to one of each of y'all's panels so that, I was like, okay, we got to support each other. And just like you guys came to my panels and we were just kind of all over the place, but I really wanted to do, I think you were on the panel earlier that morning for the Night of the Seven Kingdoms for Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I was not getting up at 10 o'clock that morning. I just couldn't do it. So I was like, nope, I'll just go to one of his other panels. And because Saturday was a slow day for me, I only did 3 panels and all of my panels were in the evening. So I had a little wiggle room during the daytime. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do this. And then your panel, I think your IL panel was it that afternoon or that night? It was one of those, but I was
I
like,
think
yeah, I'm going.
it was one of those. It
I think
was
it was an
I think it was
afternoon.
a 2:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like,
Five of
okay.
my panels were Saturday. So my Saturday was blown. To five, and they were back to back to back to back
That's how my Sunday was.
to back.
That's how my Sunday was. But um Apollo is trying to can you not mess with my camera, please? Thank you. But I want to talk about your acolyte panel, Anthony. How did that go? And I know we haven't done acolyte yet. I actually have not watched it, but I know that Anthony, Mike, and I think Lori are probably going to talk about it, and we'll probably put out that show sometime either this month or next month. But you had a little
Mm-hmm.
trepidation going into that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I was a little worried about the panel because, there's a lot of stuff going on about the acolyte. There's a lot of online chatter, a lot of YouTubers and all over X, formerly known as Twitter.
I still call it
Um
Twitter. It's not X.
and so I was a little worried because the one thing you don't want to do as a panelist is you really don't want to have the crowd turn on you, and there's, and we had this idea that we were not going to be negative because it's real easy to be negative about the show.
Mm-hmm.
The show does have the show had problems. The show has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And I was worried that if we only talked about the positive, anyone who had negative things to say about it would go even further negative and get up and say anything.
Right. Okay.
But that wasn't the case. We were able to have a little bit of criticism up there. It wasn't completely, totally yay acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some people in the audience who had issues, and we talked about it. The biggest thing, my biggest takeaway was the huge amount of support. Like there were a lot of people who came to that panel, and there are a lot of people that like the show. It's just unfortunate that that's not enough people to carry the show to keep it from being canceled.
Right.
But it's obvious that there's a small, relatively speaking, a small group of people that really like the show.
Okay.
I'm not in that group of people, but I didn't. I got challenged a couple of times for some of the things I said, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Okay.
Yeah. I did say some good things. There are some good things about the show, like one of the last fight lightsaber battles is really choreographed really well. Yeah, that's so I did say something good about it. I did say something good about it.
Okay.
It had a diverse cast, which is always good. Manny
It's the
Jacinto
first
amazing.
live action bleeding of a kyber crystal. I mean, come on, you had to be excited about that. I'm saying
the look on Anthony's face.
You know what? No, whatever. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
there's a dish you can make. Something, how you make a soup, and the soup is really, really good. Like this one time, I had like some real good clam chowder. Like it was amazing. Cooking on the stove, I was tasting it. I was like, all I just need is a little bit of pepper. So I turned the pepper shaker, and someone had loosened the top and dumped all the pepper into it.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
So bleeding a kyber crystal. I'm supposed to like that after dumping all
that
the
was
pepper.
One of my favorite scenes. I thought you would appreciate it. Fine. You know what? I'm not even going to try anymore.
No, we're not going to get into that debate now. Y'all can save it for when we record.
I'm not even going to try anymore.
Long story short, the panel was fun. We had some good dialogue. And like I said, I was really, really amazed at the amount of positive support. And sometimes it's to be expected from Star Wars fans, which is what I think a lot that gets lost. We'll talk about this when Mike and I talk about Acolyte. It kind of got lost in the shuffle, but it was clear that there are people that like the show. They liked a lot of things about it, and it's not just and it was mostly Star Wars fans.
Okay.
So it was that. But all my trepidation, it was I was worried for no reason. Turns out, I was really, really worried that I was gonna say something and get slammed like I did last year when I said I didn't care for Rogue One. And you would have thought I skinned the cat alive in front of 100,000 people, and they all started to riot. So,
well, at least
I
you
was
didn't
afraid
have
that
that
would happen
experience
again.
this year.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience this year. And I made sure to tell him I don't know who that person was who said they didn't like Rogue One. I don't know who that guy was. I don't.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience on one of my panels because I got to talk about Umbrella Academy season 4, the final season. I don't know if you guys have watched
How
it
did that
yet.
Go? Not yet.
Yeah, I did.
So
the last 4 episodes were trash.
Yes, and we did discuss that. We didn't quite go the let's not go negative, because I think the general consensus there was a lot of people agreed that the 4th season was not that great. There were a lot of problems. There were some, like, it was kind of convoluted. It was like, what are we supposed to be doing here? What are we supposed to be following? Why are we supposed to care about what happens to this character? And why is she here? And so we had some good discussions with it. There were a few fun things because we did talk about the things that we liked in the season. So, a lot of people like the fact that Luther, well, I was one of the people, I was like, I just like the fact that Luther was just happy. Like, Luther didn't have any burdens placed on him. He was going around doing his little strip club job, dancing with no rhythm, and he was happy about it. People loved the relationship between Claire and Klaus. That was like one of the sweet moments. People love the fact that Victor basically told Allison, was like, okay, yeah, I know you fucked up. We ain't got to be friends. I'm good. So there were a few good things, but I think the room was kind of, I don't want to necessarily say split, but there were some strong feelings about the whole 5 Lila Diego situation that was going on there. So we did talk that out. But I think overall, pretty much everybody was like, we don't know what they were doing. Like, what was the whole point? You got rid of, well, you get rid of the marigold just for the marigold to show back up at the end. It was just, it was really weird. But that was one of those panels where I thought people would probably be more positive about the show, and everybody was pretty much like, it was trash. What the hell did we so I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where we waited 2 years. Was it 2 years or 3? I think 2 years. But it's like, this is what we waited
2 years.
for? Okay. But I got to talk about some other really cool stuff too. Like I said, I did a Walking Dead panel. I did a Last of Us panel where we talked about the show and the video games. And oh my goodness, I did not like, I knew that this game had a following, but there are some really, really passionate fans about this game. And I'm like, y'all, I'm sitting there on the table, like, y'all are making me want to play this game, and I don't have the time in my life to do this. But
that show is why I have a PS5 now.
And then I
somebody wanted to play The Last of Us.
Yeah. They've almost got me, but I don't have the time. I can't do it. But we also did a Walking Dead versus The Last of Us, talking about what they
that would
did
have been
better.
good.
Yeah, it was a
Mhm.
really good panel. Those panels were packed. And we talked about everything. We talked about the graphic novel for The Walking Dead. We talked about the video games for The Last of Us. We talked about the shows and how they did things differently. And so basically that was also one of those where it's like we list the pros and we talk about it. We list the cons and we talk about it. And then everybody gets to vote which one they think did better. And the overall consensus was that The Last of Us um is telling the story better, but a lot of people also admitted we're going on one season versus 11 and several spinoffs. Like, will they still be consistent if they go that long? Which we are, I think we already know The Last of Us is not going to go that long. So,
Right.
because I think the third season is supposed to be the final, but it was a really good conversation. And yeah, we had fun with those. Mike, what about you? What was your favorite panel to talk about?
Um, I had a lot of them. I finally got to talk about my favorite show, Warehouse 13. Um, that one, that panel was really good. There was a guy on the panel that actually that had like a collection of actual like used props from the show. So he was
Oh,
like passing those around. It was really cool. Um,
okay.
I loved our Deadpool Wolverine panel. It was packed. It
I'm
was like
so
packed
mad I had
wall
to
to
miss
wall,
that one.
and that was a lot of fun. I did a Wolverine panel, and I got ambushed
We
because
went to that one.
it's like everybody was like, "Man, I hate Wolverine." They got to me like, "Mike, what do you think?" I was like, "Uh, I feel like I got kind of ambushed here. I actually like Wolverine the way they did."
Yeah, there was a lot of Wolverine hate up there in that panel, Mike. What was
Yeah,
that
they were
about?
haters. I was like, "What the fuck?" This is like the opposite of last year when I went to the Nevers when I couldn't talk about when we
Just
who shall
me.
not be named and got I got jumped. I was like, what is wrong with you people? I was like, he's not bad. He is actually good. But that panel actually turned out to be a pretty good discussion about it. I really like that.
Why is
I
there
was
so much Wolverine hate?
I
Please
don't know.
explain this to me.
I think it felt like people sometimes feel like Wolverine is overrated.
That he get
That
they
people
Okay,
get
just
you
like
like
know
they
what?
inconsistent.
Lori said something like that in our X-Men
Yeah,
97
she
discussion.
does.
Yes, she said that
Yeah,
Wolverine is one of those characters that gets overused. So,
yeah.
okay.
yeah.
But
Overrated, overused. There was a point when he was in everybody's books. Yeah.
yeah, but
Ah.
Hugh Jackman can't help it that he played the character very well. I mean, it's like, and they can't help that the character was shown pretty well in the X-Men cartoon. It's like people like the character. It's just like Bat stands. Bat fans of Batman. It's like they love Batman. So it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I didn't get it, but I was actually another panel that I thought that I actually enjoyed that I didn't think I was going to enjoy was no, but not that I didn't think I was going to enjoy as much was the John Constantine panel because I didn't know a lot about him, and that actually turned out to be a very good discussion.
Yes, it did. I did go to that one as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually pleasantly surprised to do that. Shout out to Allie, got to be on the panel with her again. She was, Bethany. Shout out to
Yes.
Bethany. Bethany is
Bethany.
awesome.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I was on a
That
panel.
was a good panel.
That one and the Family Dynamics one that we were on together was good too.
That's another one that could have gone a little bit longer. You know, anytime
Yeah.
we're talking about fictional families and
Hanako, your obsession with these long ass panels.
I'm
This is
just saying
long.
because what happens is some of these panels, when we get done with them, people come up to us after the
And
They come
still
panel
up and
and
talk.
talk.
they want to continue the discussion. That is not a
Yeah,
bad thing
yeah,
because that means that what you had to
yeah,
say was important to someone
yeah,
and the topic was interesting. So panels for some of these things.
yeah.
But I mean, we're talking family dynamics, and I mean it's not too different from what we do at Conjuration when we're talking
Right.
about fathers know worst and mothers aren't
Mothers know
better.
better.
So it basically was like that, but we really started talking about a lot of the positives in fictional families, and what especially single parents in fictional families, like what they do right. And so that was a lot of fun, because a lot of times, especially with our panels, we do focus on the negative because it has such an impact on the characters that that we follow, or that we're talking about. So we talk about whether or not that impacts them in a positive or a negative way. So this particular panel was talking about the positive aspect. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And
Yeah, I like actually like on. I mean, the Gen V discussion was good. The Kingpin one I did Monday. Like Monday was like one of my better days of better days of panels, because I mean I love the two that I did. I love the one you did. I mean it. I was just like, damn, is this the last day? Because the Deadpool one was pretty packed out. But yeah, I mean I really can't complain about any of these. Any of the ones I did. I mean that I'm just blessed to be asked to be on them. So
yeah, I think
One panel that I enjoyed being on was the diversity in Star Wars panel.
yeah,
Because whenever we do any diversity
that could have got
panel or
volatile
discussion
too.
of diversity, it doesn't. It's always a really good conversation. Um,
That's
and
good.
and and sometimes that's usually all we need. Sometimes the fandoms just need to sit down and have a conversation
right.
about
Right.
diversity
Yeah.
and how everything is being impacted. Because a lot of people don't sometimes see that it's not just what you see on screen, is all the things that happen behind the scenes. The casting directors, the studio heads and executives and producers, all those people are the ones that influence everything. And one of the things I talked about was we also have to talk about the diversity. For example, that first season of The Mandalorian, the directors, it was a diverse set of directors on the show. They didn't have the same, well,
Right.
there were some directors that directed a couple of episodes, but for the most part, it was a diverse group of directors. And sometimes that's what you need to have a voice or a vision, or even someone to say, yeah, we're going to do it this way. But the industry has to change. It just can't be, I don't want to throw Acolyte under the bus. You just can't throw a diverse group of people on the screen and say we're diverse. It doesn't really work that way. You got to have it at the top. It's got to start. We talked about, you got to have that one person in the room, like with that Dove commercial. You got to have someone in the room to be like, you may not want to have a black person wash themselves with Dove soap and turn white. I don't think that's going to go over well. You know what I mean? You always
Oh
got to
God,
have
oh
somebody
God,
in
I
the room
remember
to say
that.
that's not going to work. Yeah, and that's what's missing. We don't have enough of it. The only thing that I kind of was taken aback by, and I hope she's not listening, but we were talking about corporations. The biggest part of the conversation was in smaller media, you can have diversity. The Disney companies, like, they don't care about that. The comic books, because we had an author on stage and she was like, people would ask her, we really need to have some, you know, bi characters and some pan characters. And she's like, that's what I write in my Star Wars books. Like, she writes Star Wars books and she has those kinds of characters in her books. So people want to see these things, but it's there. It's just that the industry only lets you do it in the comic books and the video games. Well, that's small compared to the millions and millions of people that watch the TV or watch the movies. The amount of money they make in the television and movies is astronomical compared to comic books. So yeah, you can have a comic book with Dr. Afra, who's a gay black woman in a Star Wars comic book or a novel. You can have that because they don't care about that. But what we need for them to do is to start caring about the bigger picture, and that's why the failure of the Acolyte is so devastating. Because they're going to be like, "We gave it to you, we
And you
gave you
messed it up.
exactly what you want, and nobody watched it." Nobody watched it. And we can put the blame on whoever or whatever caused it. All Disney knows is that it was a failure.
Okay.
And it was an attempt to have a bunch of diverse people, a diverse cast in the show, and nobody wanted to watch it.
Okay.
And the same thing happened to Willow. We did the same thing with Willow. Nobody wanted to watch it. It was so bad they pulled it off Disney Plus. So, we do still need to have these conversations so people can understand what's really happening. What are we really looking at when we talk about this? And we talk about this in our diversity panels when we do them at Conjuration.
Yep.
Or yeah, it's the same thing. Anyway, it was a really good panel. It was a really good conversation. Oh, the lady, she was from Disney. She worked at the Galactic Hotel.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why I brought it up was she talked about, because we had I pretty much went in on the corporation about it, especially Disney. And she got up and she was like, "Yeah, I was a hostess at the Galactic Hotel." And Disney really, really tried. We had a diverse cast. The cruise, because it's like a cruise ship. The cruise director was a Black woman, and she just listed all these, and the characters always stayed minorities or whatever. I really wanted to say, well, that kind of proves my point. I mean, it's like they have 3,000 guests. Yeah, and you only have 3,000 guests at most on this thing for a week, and it's still small potatoes as compared to the millions of people that watch the shows and the millions of people that go to the movies. Yeah. You're just talking about a small group of elite people that the only thing they care about is them paying money to go to the hotel. They don't care about the diversity of the cast. That's not important to them. So yeah, you can have a diverse cast in the Galactic Hotel because nobody cares. You can have a diverse cast in the park because it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's small potatoes. That's not where we're focusing on. We're talking about focusing on getting diversity on the TV shows and in the movies where it reaches more people, where we want to see ourselves in those things.
Right.
Video games is cool, but it's still a video game, and it's still, well, I don't know, because now video games is reaching just as many people as the movies are.
Right.
Sometimes.
Right.
So, and making just as much money as movies. But even there, they're starting to pull back because the Star Wars game had a white male character as the main character. And so, and that's them following the track. And the side note, I didn't get to bring this up, but I remember reading somewhere that the people who created Star Jedi Survivor originally wanted Cal Kestis to be a minority. And the studio told them, LucasArts told them, no, you can't do it. Because they already had several other minority characters for the game or plan to be in the game. They're like, no, you can't make the main character minority. And those are the kinds of things that needs to change. But anyway, it was a great conversation.
Okay.
But that was my favorite panel to be on.
We had a similar conversation about morals and ethics on the Orphan Black Echoes panel. That one was an interesting one because if you're familiar with Orphan Black, the original series deals with the unauthorized making of clones, illegal, making of clones. And so Orphan Black Echoes takes place within the same universe, but it's like 30 years into the future, 40 years into the future. So it's taking place in like 2052. And you have the little girl from the original series. She's the main character in this series. And even though she went through a lot of dangerous times with her mom was the original clone, or she was the original person that was cloned. She kind of does something similar in the future, and it's about all of these choices afterwards, and what's ethical, what's moral, because she couldn't let go of her wife, and so she basically created a copy of the wife so that she could try to fix what was wrong with the wife to keep her from dying. And so we had some of those similar conversations for that particular show. It's very interesting because you have to sit there and think about, okay, so if I have the technology to fix something, to fix someone, to cure a problem, but I have to basically make a copy of this person in order to fix that. This person dies, I make a copy so that I can continue to do that. Like, is that ethical? Is that something that should be done? Does that person have a soul? It raised a lot of interesting questions. And if you guys haven't watched the show, either one of the shows, you really should, because first of all, or in the original Orphan Black, Tatiana Maslany is just like, she's like amazing. And then in the second show, it just kind of expands on that point, and you're just kind of like, you knew better, and you still did what you did, and what are the consequences for that, and how do you deal with those
Right.
consequences? It's very interesting. That particular show, like, some of the acting is not that great. It's very clunky. Some of the dialogue is very awkward, but it's an interesting show, and the conversations that are had around it is just like, this is really stuff that we're discussing, because they are, in this day and age, they are doing 3D printouts of, organs now to transplant into people. And so Orphan Black Echoes takes that and they put it on a whole level, because instead of just copying the organs, you are basically printing out a whole person, including their personality traits, their memories. And all of this is accessible because basically by this point, the Census Bureau has data on every single person. And I mean medical records, dental records, financial information, all of your medical, like brain scans, MRIs, x-rays. They have access to all of this stuff. And that is how this kind of technology is going. And it's like scary, because you really sit there and think about it like, oh, we could actually be doing this in a few years. And that's scary. And the funny thing is, we did that panel on Skynet Day. so, so it's kind of like, I don't know if I should be like impressed or afraid. But
yes.
So it's that is a show that I totally missed when it was coming on, and you've convinced me. I'm gonna go back and watch it, but it's on AMC Plus, and
yes, you
I think
should
we
absolutely
stopped our
watch it.
AMC. I think we stopped our AMC Plus subscription
You'll
because
start it
whatever
back in
y'all
a
were
couple.
covering.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'll be starting it back in a couple of weeks because Daryl Dixon's new season starts.
Okay, that's when I watch it. I'll watch
Yep.
it, man.
Yep. So you'll have it. But yeah, I'm trying to think. So Mike and I did a panel together, Supernatural Showdown, which I think for the last few years has been our Thursday night. Like, that is our start to con, to do Supernatural Showdown. So for the last 3 years, we've done seasons. So we did like seasons 1 through 5 the first year, 6 through 10 the second, 11 through 15 last year. And so this year we started doing the characters. And so all of us were assigned a character at random, and we had 4 minutes to talk about why this character was so important to the show. And then the audience got to vote who gave the best argument. So I think Mike had Cass, I had Crowley, and we all had some good arguments. I think, let's see, somebody had Bobby, somebody had Mary Winchester,
and
Jack,
Rowena.
and Rowena. I think, wait, let me see. Yep. Bobby, Cass, Crowley, Jack, Mary, Rowena. Okay, yes. So we had 6 panelists, those 6 characters. And it's so funny because the person who got booed the most when they announced who the characters were, is the argument that ended up winning, and it was because it was Mary Winchester. Because a lot of people,
she's really good at that. I mean,
Beth is really good.
Beth is incredibly good at that. Like,
But she
I mean, she
also
had a
had a
point. She was
good
like, if it wasn't for
character.
Mary Winchester, the boys wouldn't exist. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, and she made some good points. And this was something I was having a conversation with my daughter about the other day, about how Mary Winchester is one of those divisive characters, because you have a lot of people who don't like her from when she came back, because she was so different from the image of Mary that Dean and Sam had basically had of her for all those years that she was gone. But then when you think about the stuff that she's had to go through and come back 33 years after her death, and she's having to adjust to being a mom to grown men, and she's going back into hunting, and she finds out her sons are hunters when she didn't want that lifestyle for them, and her husband is dead, and it's just a whole lot of stuff. And I was like, she's not that bad. It's just a matter of that we have to take her down from the pedestal that Dean had placed her on for all those years that we watched the show,
Right.
and look at her as a real person with real issues and real trauma. And again, we talk about this all the time on the show. All of these people have no access to therapy. And sometimes they have to create their own therapy, and they have to do their own things that help them get through whatever it is they have to go through. So Beth did a really good job, and she got I think she got 29 votes out of the whole audience.
She got 30. You had 20, and she had 30.
I had 20 for Crowley. Yeah. So hopefully they would do that panel again next year, and we'll have a whole new cast of characters to talk about. But that's always a fun start to con for us, because it's literally one of the first panels of the day or of the whole weekend. But yeah, I
really liked your Starlight panel too, because that one got a little spicy.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we finish covering the boys, because there's a lot going on with that character this season. And I think it's interesting. One of the things that we have been talking about a lot in our the coverage that we do for our superhero characters or superhero shows or movies, and I think Michelle and I were talking about it earlier today too, is for us Gen X, when we were growing up, comic book characters were good or bad. There wasn't really that in between. We had the characters that were there, but for the most part, you had to focus on the good characters, you focused on the bad characters. There were clear-cut heroes and villains. And as we get older and we're looking at things from a different lens, we're looking at things from an adult lens, we're looking at things from a maturity lens, from a moral lens, from an ethical lens, it's very clear that none of these people, even the people that we call heroes, are really good. And a lot of the people that we call villains are not all bad. It's like everybody is kind of in that gray. And Starlight is one of those characters who very much exemplifies that, because we're introduced to her character and she's like this really sweet, small town hero. She just wants to do good. And then she's put through these paces from these members of the Seven till we get to where we are in season 4 with her. And we find out more things about her past and how she really was not a nice person. And all of this is starting to blow up in her face. And I was just like, oh, this is a great way to examine how we look at quote unquote heroes and villains. And so that really was a very interesting panel, because you had a lot of people who were on one extreme and a lot of people who were on another extreme. And then you had a small group that was kind of sort of in the middle. But yeah, we can talk about that more when we cover the rest of the season 4 episodes of The Boys, because Starlight going through some shit in this season. Ooh, yeah. That was fun though. But let's see. I got to talk about Outlander, which is always fun. especially since I am now caught up on the books. I read 3 almost 1,000-page books in the course of a week and a half. And yeah, that was
every time Michelle saw you posting something, she'd be like, she need to be reading that book.
I think we were talking about House of the Dragon one night. We were getting ready to, and she was looking at me like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm still on such and such book." And she just looked at you. I said, she's not even hiding it. She is looking at Anthony like, if this bitch don't keep to start reading. But I got it done. I got it done.
Yeah.
And now I'm really going through Outlander book withdrawal because she might be 3 or 4 years away from publishing the final book. And I'm sitting here like, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what's going on. So now I'm going through Droughtlander for the show and for the book. Thankfully,
Droughtlander.
Yes, that's what it is called. Thankfully, the show is coming back November 22nd, but I need her to write some more daily lines for book 10 because I need to see what's going on so I can kind of formulate in my head what I think is going to happen. But I'm trying to think, what else did we talk about this year? I think I covered pretty much what was on my plate. Anthony, you did a lot of Star Wars this year, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I did the Witchcraft and the Force and Magic in Star Wars, which was another interesting panel because I got a little bit of pushback because people don't understand that the Force is the Force and that magic is just what they call Force when it's being used by people who aren't the Sith or the Jedi. It's still the Force. It's just called a different name. So people don't get that. And the only one thing that happened on that panel, and one day I'll have Nick come on and explain it to you, but there was a guy who, I said something about Sith sorcery and Sith alchemy, which are forms of magic. But it's still the Force. Anyway, he came up and he said, yeah, you didn't have to say something about it not being canon because it most definitely canon and you shouldn't shy away from it. And I'm thinking, I didn't say anything about it being canon or not canon. And afterwards, Nick was like, yeah, I don't know where that came from because you didn't say anything about it being canon or not canon. I say, yeah. He's like, Anthony, you have to remember you're on that side of the table. Yeah. You can't, because, you guys know how I can get out of sometimes. And when you're up there on the panel, you can't really do that. You can't really. I think I talked to you about this. Sometimes you can push back a little bit on the audience, but you can't go too far.
You don't want it to turn into like an argument. Like you can.
Yeah, you don't want to turn into an argument.
Yeah, you can kind of sort of debate and kind of make your points clear, but yeah, I mean, there are some people that are gonna like push you. And honestly, on an hour-long panel, we don't have time for that. Like,
we don't have time for that. Because the guy got up and he said the Jedi don't allow people to use the Force. Like they don't let other people use the Force. And I was like, I said this. I was like, that's interesting because I've read a lot of Star Wars, the EU, I have never once seen anyone say that Jedi don't allow other people to use the Force. Like that doesn't make any sense. And Nick was like, that's the first time he's ever seen me sort of get somewhat snarky with the audience member. But I mean, it's one of those things. It was a fun panel. I also did a Quantum Leap panel, which was a lot of fun because there's a huge following. Because if you watch the original show is like one of the greatest TV shows of all time. And as much as I like the new Quantum Leap, it's not quite as good, but it's good in a different way. because the original was really Sam and Al. It was really the two of them. The new show, I don't think you guys have watched it.
I haven't watched it yet.
The new show is more of an ensemble.
Oh, okay.
It's more about it's like 5 or 6 characters that we follow in the show. It's not about the leaper and the person helping him. It's really an ensemble, which is, I like the idea that they did it differently than the original. So I really like that panel because there are a lot of fans of that show. Okay. And the only other panel of note is Upload, which is a show that comes on Amazon Prime. It's a fun show, but it really has like a dark side. It's like if Black Mirror were a sitcom,
basically. Yeah.
If you ever watch Black Mirror, it's like that, but
or it's basically like you can't take it with you, but if you die and you're broke, you're still broke.
Yeah, but it raises a lot of interesting issues. We would say it's subversive because they're one of the main storylines in the show is gerrymandering, where they're upload. Okay, the idea of upload is when you die or right before you die, you can upload your brain or your consciousness or who you are into a computer and it'll make an avatar. And you have all these choices of different heavens, I just call them heavens, that you can go to and spend your life there forever.
Depending on how much money you have. So, like, you have to have a lot of money.
Okay.
Like
if you're poor, if you're poor, right?
They just throw your ass in the ground.
You can go to.
It's basically like if you're rich,
you can go, but you only get like 2 gigabytes of data.
Yeah, if you're rich, you're on 5G, and if you're poor, you're on 2G.
Okay.
So you basically
you're on dial-up. You're literally
on dial-up. Yeah, you have nothing.
You're on dial-up, and
you literally have no color.
Of storage.
You can't move.
Goodness. Okay.
Oh,
that's
it's a fun show. It raises a lot of questions about, do we have souls? Because a character dies, they get uploaded, but they can be duplicated, right? So one of the 3 rules
like
is
Orphan Black Echoes.
Right, but you duplicate, you're inside the computer, and you're virtual. But then the main character, his fiance, is still alive, but she still wants to have a relationship with him, even though he's dead. And then there's like a food shortage. And then there's a food shortage. So then we get into this one episode where there's like this huge, massive, like cloned cow. And each of the teats is a different type of milk. And when you get to the end of it, it comes out as cottage cheese because the milk has traveled for so long down the cow that it comes out, it's kind of spoiled. So it's kind of, it raises a lot of interesting things, but the main thing, the gerrymandering, is they had built these different places for free uploads, and people could choose and make their own heaven or whatever. And they were doing for the poor people in the what do we call the swing states? So if you get enough of the poor people to upload, they can't vote anymore because they're dead. So you can turn all the swing states red. That is one of the plot lines of the show. But it raises all these things that are like common in our actual society, but they give it to you in a weird kind of way. And if you really watch the show and kind of pay attention, it can be kind of depressing. But it was fun to have a lot of people come and talk about the show because it does raise a lot of interesting things. But and the IEL panel was a lot of fun. Hanako recorded it and put it up on YouTube. You should watch it because I had there was some funny moments in that.
Yeah, Anthony was a regular comedian that day.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy was.
I
love Wheel of Time. I love Robert Jordan. I love the IEL. it was a fun panel to be on.
Yeah.
Um, and the two um, Game of Thrones panel I was on, the Night of Seven Kingdoms, we talked about the show that's coming up, and um, maybe that was was that? I think it was the only Game of Thrones panel I was on. Night of
Okay.
the Seven Kingdoms.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was only with Tara, and Tara's always fun to be on the panel with
Yeah.
because she knows her stuff, boy. She
She
knows her
does.
stuff.
She knows her Game of
She
Thrones shit.
doesn't.
Yes.
She knows her stuff, and I think she has a Game of Thrones convention that she's a director of up north somewhere.
She used to have it. It's on
Used to
hiatus
have
right
one. Okay,
now. Yeah,
it's on hiatus. That's right.
she said
That's right.
it's hard running an East Coast con from the West Coast, so she needed to take a break.
Right.
She said that hopefully it will be back, because I think you and I talked about possibly doing that
We're
convention,
talking about
and
going.
then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then that's when it went on hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually I think we talked about it right before the pandemic happened. And then of course COVID happened
Yep, we
and
sure
screwed
did.
everything up. So yeah, but yeah, okay. So here's the other thing. Anthony, you had fun talking about on the panels, but you said you don't think you're gonna do panels next year.
You know, best laid plans of mice and men. I think I said that last year. And this year, Michelle said, you should try to get on High Fantasy again because, yeah. So I reached out to High Fantasy and I remembered, oh, yeah, I know the Star Wars track director. Let me reach out to her. And oh, yeah, I know the American Sci-Fi track director. Let me reach out to her. Next thing you know, I'm on 8 panels and I really wasn't planning on being on like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, again, I miss going to panels. That's what I've always liked about Dragon Con, like going to panels, engaging the panelists, not being a panelist, being engaged with. It's not quite the same. It's not quite the same.
And see, that's
I
funny
like being
because
on the
I
other
like it.
side.
Well, I like it
No, I
because
like
it
being on
gives
the
me an
other side.
opportunity to talk. Like,
Yeah.
especially of all the stuff, because like even before we started doing this recording, we were talking about, look, I'm just gonna flash it up. We were talking about our list of shows that we want to cover just for the end of this year, and we have like 17 different topics, and I'm like, there's no way we're going to be able to do that. But Dragon Con for me is one of the ways that I get to talk about a lot of the things that I want, because we started this podcast in 2020. Matter of fact, the end of this month will be our 4th birthday. And it's so weird to think that we've been going for 4 years. But like when we first started, the pandemic was still going strong. We were still like, a lot of us were still working remotely. There was no social life whatsoever. So we literally, were recording and putting out, I think at the beginning, we were putting out like 3 episodes a week because there was so much time. We weren't doing anything. And it's like now we've gone back to regular life. Anthony and Michelle, they have a child that's, almost done with high school. And, Mike is married. Lori has been, dealing with family stuff. And so it's harder for us to get together to like really talk about stuff. And so Dragon Con is like, conventions are that outlet for me. Like if we're only talking about 2 shows a month, at Dragon Con, I get to go talk about 10 different things and I can get it out of my system. So I like that part about it because I'm like, ooh, I get to talk. And then also hearing other people's opinions about things. Not just the panelists, but a lot of people in the audience, because some people in the audience, they may not feel comfortable being on a stage to talk about it, but they don't mind engaging. And a lot of times people will say stuff and the things that they're saying is something that never crossed my mind. So I literally sit there like, and it gives me something to think about. And that's one of the things I love about doing it. And then of course, people coming up afterwards and continuing the conversation, or, for me, one of the things I've talked about in the past is the whole imposter syndrome thing. Because you think about these people who are making a living doing this kind of thing, and then you have us who just do it because we just want to do it. It's fun. And sometimes you can sit here and think like, we're on panels with authors. I think Anthony was on a panel with somebody who actually works on the Wheel of Time show, working with people
Mm-hmm.
who work with these things. And you can start feeling like, okay, I'm just a little podcaster. Who cares about my opinion and that sort of thing? And you start feeling like, okay, I don't know if I need to be here. And then people will come up and say, hey, I liked your opinion on this because it's not an opinion I've heard before. Or also, us being people of color, a lot of times our voices aren't heard in geek spaces. That's changed a lot in the last few years. Before a long time, like I remember when I started going to Dragon Con in 2007, there was not a lot of Black people there. There were some,
No.
but not like we got a whole Black Geeks of Dragon Con group now, and they're
Right.
having the photo
And definitely
shoots
not and definitely not on panels.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely not on panels.
Yeah.
Like I spent the first 10 to 15 years going to Dragon Con. Every panel I went to, the feedback was, y'all don't have no Black people on the panel.
Yeah.
And that was across all the tracks. The only you could go to urban fantasy, and that would be like the only place you find like Black authors or Black people on the panel. Everywhere else was like, no.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that has changed. I would say changed significantly over the years. Is the diversity and representation of the panelists has really changed for the better. This is I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Which is why when people ask me to be on the panel, I don't say no.
Yeah.
And also,
you got to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
And this is one of the first years that I actually had like someone walk up to me that not in the room after the panel, but like outside of the room, like walk up to me and say, "Hey, I really loved your panel the other day." It's like I had like 3 people say that this year, and I was like, "Wow, thanks." Like this is not like immediately after, but it's like just walking around, like, "Hey, I saw your panel. You were really good." I was like, that saves me from my imposter syndrome. But I have imposter syndrome just being on here with you guys every time we podcast.
Whatever, dude.
Whatever, dude. Whatever, dude.
Whatever. Look,
but my favorite part of
we all
Dragon,
deserve to be in this space. So
yeah, my favorite part of Dragon
we have to remind ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. We belong here. My favorite part of Dragon Con is just being around people who geek out about something the same level that I do, if not more.
Yes.
And that is what has always appealed to me. That's why I like being in the audience, because to be around people who geek out about Star Wars or about to have a whole room full of people just to talk about the Force and witchcraft and magic.
Yeah.
That is, I spent all this time researching hard magic, soft magic, irrational magic, just to go in there to talk about it. And we don't talk about it, but it's fine or running into people who know more than you do about something. And, that is always amazing to me. That's I think that is the appeal. And to get up and I don't mind talking about how I feel about something. There were many times when I used to go and people were like, why aren't you on any panels? Well, because I don't know anybody. You apply, you fill out, you're like, hey, how can I be on the panel? Like, oh, you got to volunteer. I don't got time for that. I need to go to the panels. I don't have time to volunteer on the track just to get on the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I hear a lot of people. They're like, when I tell them I'm on a panel at Dragon Con, they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, how'd you do that? I'm like, you gotta apply. It's all in who you know. I mean, it's like you have to actually know people and like talk to people and like relate to people and be like, "Look, wow, that was a whole lot of fun. I wouldn't mind trying that." Because shout out to Kellen on American Sci-Fi.
We
Because
love Kellen. We love her.
We love Kellen.
Kellen's like,
awesome.
I love her because it's like we always say like we want to be on so many because all their panels are cool. I'm like, okay, I want to be on every last one of those panels. She's like, no, you only get 5 damn panels because I want to hear different. I want to hear different people talking about it. I'm like, okay, fine.
But that's the
But
good thing.
shout out to her. Shout out to her for from subjugating the rules and allowing me to be on Deadpool Wolverine as the 6th panel this year.
Let
I
me
really
tell you,
appreciate that.
I fought for you to get on that panel.
And I
I was
appreciate
like,
you.
no.
I appreciate
was
you
like,
for
because I was supposed to do that panel, but I had an I think it, oh no, not Outlander, Interview with the Vampire, which was kind of, it was one of those panels where the horror track, shout out to Derek, wasn't supposed to do it. And then he reached out to me. He was like, hey, so I didn't think I was going to do an Interview with the Vampire season 2 panel this year, but I think I'm going to do it. Do you want to be on it? And this is only the 2nd year I've done anything on the horror track and also Apocalypse Rising, but it's kind of like you said, Mike, 1 is, people, and then 2 is also like word of mouth, because if people hear, oh yeah, I've had her on my track or I've had him on my track and they were good,
right,
then that'll give them some idea, like, okay, so they can hold somebody's interest, they can talk, and that sort of thing. I did the Interview with the vampire panel last year, and we had so much fun. And this year, when I say that room was bonkers, we had so much fun. And I'm so pissed off because my camera died 17 minutes into the panel. I'm so mad because that was like one of the best panels. That group of panelists was amazing. It was just but yeah, going back to what Mike was saying, it's like that's how I got into paneling, because I knew somebody from the local Atlanta Harry Potter group who was on the YA Lit track, and she was like, hey, you do a lot of Harry Potter stuff, because back then in 2010 it was like, not only was I very active in the local Harry Potter community, I was also a Harry Potter blogger for hollywoodnews.com, and I was just all over the place with Harry Potter stuff. They brought me in for a Harry Potter panel, and then the next year they had me do a few more panels, and then I think the next year was when American Sci-Fi Fantasy, when I actually saw them put the call for panelists out, and it just kind of went from there. So yeah, it always is a good feeling when people hear of your, when you have a reputation where people like, hey, I want to get this person on my panels, or when people, like you said, might come up to you just in the middle of the con, like, oh my God, I saw your panel, it was great, blah blah blah. And then we also got new listeners and new subscribers because of some of our Dragon Con panels that I've already posted. So hey, new people, welcome. So yeah, I love it. I mean, y'all can tell from listening to this podcast, I like to talk about geeky things. So anytime that I get a chance to talk, I am one of those kids who used to have that on the report card. She's very smart, gets good grades, talks too much.
Talks a lot.
Well, one more shout out to Kellen, the director of the American Sci-Fi track, because she will have these shows like Beacon 23 upload, shows that don't get a lot of attention, and give people the ability to see and talk to other people about those same shows. Silo, I wouldn't say Three Body Problem, but there was a lot of people in that room. But doing having shows like that, we had 2 shows that didn't make it this year. Constellation, which I actually kind of liked, and the other show was the Big Door Prize, which we had a lot of people that panel last year, but we just couldn't get any panelists this year.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I know you guys were looking forward to that.
For it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then all these shows we do, they get canceled. It's very difficult.
Nowadays,
but it's fun to be able to talk to other people about those shows, because otherwise there isn't really a community for them.
Yeah.
So shout out to her for keeping that up, and I hope she keeps doing it and doesn't get discouraged by audience numbers.
Yeah. So I think we can close this one out, I do want to call out the specific tracks. So shout out to the American Sci-Fi Fantasy Media track, Urban Fantasy, let's see, Young Adult Literature, Horror, Apocalypse Rising, American Sci-Fi Classics, Star Wars track, Alternate History. Let's
Shout out
see.
to X.
High
Shout
fantasy.
out to X Track, which is where
Oh,
I was on.
Extract.
I was on the Warehouse 13 panel. That was X
Oh,
Track.
yep.
They were
Extract.
so nice. I'm like, they must not have a lot of people over
Yeah,
here. They were
S
like,
track. That yeah, I did several panels a couple of years ago on X track. I love X track. Yeah,
they're like, hey, how you doing? You want a snack? You want
yeah,
a soda? I'm like,
yeah.
Alternate
X track
History
is X
gave me
track.
a
they
they
are
gave
really,
us a
but
thank
they're
you
really
card.
cool people. But see,
Yeah.
the reason that the reason
Oh,
they're
what?
nice because they're in the damn Cortland, and everybody hates the Cortland.
I don't
Oh wait, Hanako, what track was that where you had the snacks on the table? Those were premium snacks.
that was Alternate History
Alternate
where the
man, shout out
Outlander,
to
yes.
alternate history.
Yeah, shout
that
out.
Shout out.
the
I was
Outlander
like,
panel,
whoa,
yes.
wait a second. They had Twix and Snicker bars and pretzels, and I was like, what is going on here? And then he
So
refilled it while I was standing there. I was like,
that
whoa,
particular
can I
track
get on this
gives
track?
us they also gave thank you cards to all of their panelists. So when they set up our little name tags, they handed me an envelope and it was a thank you card saying thank you for participating on our track. And I mean,
That's
Urban
nice.
Fantasy, Carol does that as well. She has like little bite-sized
Fancy, yeah.
candies on the tables. When you go in, and so all of the tracks, they do sweet little things like that for
They
all of
do
their
different
panelists,
things.
and it's cool
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
feel
Star
appreciated.
Wars track offered me water and Powerade. That's nice. While we're
Look,
sitting up there.
Powerade. Look, they got the good stuff.
Hey.
They got the good stuff. So thank you to
And
all of
shout out to
those
High
tracks.
Fantasy.
Oh,
Yeah, High
and
Yeah.
Fantasy
did I
for
leave High
having
Fantasy
Fandom
out?
Hybrid back again. Yeah.
Thank you, High Fantasy. So thank you for
Perfect.
all of those tracks, for having us on your panels. We thoroughly enjoy it every single year. And we are looking forward to whatever is coming in 2025. But for now, that is it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media, on all the social media at Fandom Hybrid. You can chat with us on our Discord channel. You can watch us on our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. And also, before we sign off, this is just a reminder. You've seen it on our social media pages, but Michelle, Casey, and I are nominated for the Women in Podcasting Award in the entertainment category. We will put the link in the show notes for this show, but if you would, please go and vote for us. Voting is open until October 1st. And with that, thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.